Hi everyone. A while ago I mentioned that I'd do a walk around of the aircraft and point out some of the key items on this great aircraft that we all fly in DCS. It's going to be a general top level type overview. More specific videos will come later on. And as a reminder, all of this information is freely available on the internet. So we'll take a look at the top down view first. As we know, it's a contra-rotating helicopter, so we've got 6 blades, 3 on the front, 3 on the back, and they're all connected up by this transmission drivetrain. In fact, perhaps that's something that we can talk about probably in another video, I guess, for that bit of detail for that one. Anyway, in terms of dimensions and that kind of stuff, the overall kind of rotor disc area, so you from front to back, just short of 100 foot for those that work in Imperial, so yeah, around about 30 meters. So it's pretty big. But in saying that, if you took something like an Apache and parked it over the top, the footprint is actually very similar to that. Yeah. The blades themselves, so the blades are color coded, and you'll see when we have a closer look that they've got this just right on the model as well, which is really good. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so we'll just kind of zoom in. My wonderful camera skills. We'll start from just looking at the underside from the front. So in terms of the undercarriage, then 4 undercarriage legs, pretty unique for the aircraft. You can see the antenna at the bottom, and then also just ahead of that you can see the 2 landing lamps. Now the 2 landing lamps are individually controlled by each of the pilots. They can control it from their collective. They have the option, as you know, to use white light or infrared if you're operating off NVGs. And then just next to those you see the kind of like a round sort of circular shape. So that's the radar, right? So basically it's a transmitter and a receiver. So one is basically firing out a radar pulse towards the ground, and then the reflected pulse is picked up by the other one, and the radar altimeter does the calculation, and that's what we see basically on the display as we look at it. Okay, so we're slowly going to pan the view up now, and the first 2 transparencies that you can see, yeah, I mean that looks really good on the model. These are colloquially referred to as chin windows. Essentially it allows the pilots to look past the foot pedals to the ground that they're going to be landing on, right? Now on the transparencies, you'll notice there's 4 kind of white circles. These are something that DAFIX equipped aircraft, which is what we've got, right? They shouldn't actually be connected up anymore, because they was side slip ports which were used by the old EAPS system and not DAFIX, right? So they're not used. Where you've got the 27, obviously come from my username, right? So that's bonnet allows you to get into their avionics at the front, and then either side of that, the way we're looking at it, I guess to the left and to the right, you've got the piezo probes, yeah. And there's another difference from the old AFCS equipped aircraft to a DAFIX one. You notice the difference straight away, because the DAFIX equipped aircraft has got 3 of these piezo probes, right? The extra one is for the standby flight display. Okay, so we're just going to look at the nose. So we've kind of moved up the way you can see the transparencies, the essentially the windscreens for the pilot, center screens, and then the transparencies just above their heads. They're colloquially known as the eyebrow windows. In terms of the rest of the kit you can see on there, what else have we got? So for example, we've got an antenna for the IFF. We got sensors for both radar warnings, so radar warning receivers, which as you know is going to come up, and missile warning as well. In terms of the area itself, so this is referred to as the cockpit in terms of the structure, right? So there's lots of really good detail. Kind of when you zoom in, you see the separate kind of rivet heads and things like that, and in some cases bits of weathering. See the windscreen wipers, and that was something that in terms of functionality, it was the last kind of update, kind of gave us the ability switching things on and off. So model looks really good from this angle. Right, so we're going to zoom in now from the right hand side, the starboard side, and the area that we're looking at here is just above the cockpit. This is colloquially again referred to as the forward pylon area. You see the fairing at the front with those missile warning sensors. Just below that, actually, so we got an antenna that I neglected to mention a second ago. That's part of the ILS system. The model looks really, really good in terms of the detail. You see that kind of black sort of domed panel. That's a weather shield, right? Essentially, it just keeps the environment out of the area below it, because below that there's essentially a panel. It's actually a work platform. You see where that black rectangular shape is there, that actually folds down, and that gives the maintenance staff the ability to get in there and carry out maintenance on the forward transmission, which is tucked in there. And there's one that basically mirrors it on the other side of the aircraft as well. And then when we look at the actual head itself, so you can see these three, they're actually slightly kind of green sort of color, right? These are referred to as pitch links, right? So ultimately these will be hooked up to our flying controls, and these enable us to change the essentially the angle of attack of the blades. Spoken about that in kind of multiple sort of videos before. And again, kind of really good kind of detail on those. You can see the different color codes of the blades as well, which is good. Where the blades are going, fitting into the head itself, all the details there, like the cables essentially for the like the bonding for lightning protection. On the right hand side, so the blade, kind of the green blade, which is coming out there, just kind of close to the root, you can see what looks like a piston. So this is a lag damper, right? And essentially it's like a standalone shock absorber. Each of the blades has got one individually, and it essentially kind of dampens out that lag as the blades are basically whizzed through the air, right? Because it's a fully articulated head on Chinook. It's not a fixed head. And then we'll just pan the camera view down. You see, it looks really good. So just below the forward pylon then, you get a better look at the transparencies I was talking about before. So those eyebrow windows. You can also see they've got the non-slip surfaces on the top as well, where you've got all of the what looks like lots of separate kind of panels, which are going from the forward pylon all the way towards the back of the aircraft. So they're referred to as tunnel covers, right? And underneath there's a whole series of synchronizing shafts. Again, talk about that probably at a later point. It looks good. Got all the various kind of antenna on the top for VHF, UHF. We can have SATCOM up there as well. Looking down the way, we've got the forward right hand door. There's also, you can also make out the heater exhaust and intake as well, which is again really good, great detail. So now we'll take a look from the side. Again, my awesome kind of camera skills here, but it looks really good. Just moving on from where we were looking at before with that forward cabin door. You can see how the fuselage basically is all kind of set up. The two big pods, I'm sure most people kind of recognise, but the two kind of pods on either side of the aircraft, this is essentially where Chinook stores its fuel, right? And depending on the block, the mark of the aircraft will depend on whether you've got like multiple tanks. Maybe 6 tanks is quite common. Sometimes on certainly some of the larger aircraft, it might be like 2 kind of fuel tanks which are tucked in there, and again some really good kind of detail on there. It's really great to see on the model. I think the only thing that's kind of letting us down at the moment is in terms of the fuel. I think it's been certainly picked up by other people as well, but you've only really got like those sort of center tanks available, even though on this particular one, the F model, you should have 6, right? You should have 2 main tanks, 1 on either side, and then 4 auxiliary fuel tanks. But for some reason, they've kind of not enabled the full kind of fuel load and control and things like that. But I'm sure that'll come in time. So moving our view a little bit further back, just going to zoom in on those chaff dispensers, right? So the way the difference between basic chaff is going to fire it up into the blades and use that downwash to kind of mix it all up. We get another kind of good view of the side, loads of kind of detail again, which is there. You can see the seat straps through the different windows on the transparencies down the side, the bubble window that you've got there, and then as we kind of move the view across, we can also see the FLIR dispensers at the back again, both mounted at the back. Kind of makes sense that you're going to park those there, I guess. And then the engine, right? So the engine that we've got on our aircraft is the 714 Alpha engine. So yeah, really powerful. Again, some kind of great detail on here in terms of the intake screens that we've got. So these are just like the regular kind of intake screens that you'd have for like a temperate environment like Europe, going around the majority of the states, I guess. But if you're going somewhere dusty, or even up into the Arctic or something like that, then you would for EAPS units on the front of that. And it would be really good, because I know that the model that I've got in Microsoft Flight Sim has got the ability to do it, but it'd be really good to be able to fit EAPS units on the front of the engines. I mean, we certainly got the controls, and it's a bit annoying when we first got it, and it kind of implied that the EAPS units were actually turned on, when you can see that they're not actually physically fitted. All we've got are the screens, but yeah, detail wise, model looks really good. So moving our view up to the top, looking directly down on the aft head, you can see it replicates what we've got at the front. Just behind that, you can see the strobe light. We've also got what else we got? There's a infrared formation light. We got visible green, the 2 green strips, they're actually visible formation lights, like the green ones that light up. And then you get a nice kind of view looking back down towards the forward pylon, and again you can see all of those tunnel covers. And in fact, something I didn't mention before, actually, we've also got the formation lights which are sat on top of the tunnel covers towards the front as well. And again, it looks I know I say it a lot, but yeah, the detail looks really good, and that's what we want from this, right? We want a model that's going to feel as close as we can anyway to the real thing. And before we go round to the back of the aircraft, I thought I'd just jump up the top. This, as you can see, is a slightly different view. I'd start the aircraft up, but in front of us in the middle is the combining transmission. You can see the 2 fairings that come out of it at the base of it. That's essentially the drive shafts leading to the engines. And when we go inside, you can actually see, you go through those panels known as clamshell doors. they've actually modelled the cooler, and actually we can look down into the cabin area. You can see that some of the control rods which are there. I mean, not everything is modelled, but yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting the stuff that they've chosen to model and other bits that they haven't. So moving our view to the rear of the aircraft, you can see I've put the ramp down, and this is how it looks when the ramp is fully deployed. Yeah, so the ramp is down, the ramp tongue is inside the ramp, and then the 3 tow ramps are extended. Normally, certainly in my experience, you wouldn't necessarily have 3, you might just have 2, which is enough to get vehicle, troops, that kind of stuff onto the back of the aircraft nice and easy. And then what we'll do with the view is we'll just kind of pan it up the way. Just above the ramp, what you can see there is the intake and the exhausts for the APU. So the grill, like the rectangular grill, that's actually the intake area for the APU, and the round exhaust at the back. And then just above that, what we can see, you can see that again, the detail, the tail number. You can see the position, the navigation light at the back as well, and also the missile warning sensors again. So yeah, all good. And then before we have a look inside the aircraft, we'll just have a look down the port side, see the engine, FLIR dispensers, just kind of flick forward, have a look down the side. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to mirror the starboard side of the aircraft, but yeah, some great detail. You can see the fuel caps on the tops of the tanks, the vents, the static ports, I didn't mention those. Also the big antenna which runs down the left hand side, the port side of the aircraft. That's the HF, right? That's the HF radio, so you're going to use that for long range communications, not something that's currently kind of set up in the game as we have it at the moment. And then we'll move around to the rear of the aircraft. Actually, what I should have mentioned a second ago, the port and starboard sides of the aircraft, they don't mirror each other exactly, because you've got a forward cabin door on the right hand side, but on the left hand side it's just a port escape hatch. So yeah, we get to kind of look inside the aircraft as well, which is really good, into the cabin just above us then, as we kind of pause at the tow ramps and look up. What you've got up there then, you can see the APU, which is sat there. It's got like a drip tray sat underneath that. And then just forward of that, you've got these kind of grey panels. They're referred to as elephant's ears. Like, again, there's lots of nicknames and things like that. Similar to a lot of other aircraft, right? And what's sat above those is a great big transmission, right? It's the aft transmission. And then above that, you've got a great big 6-foot shaft, right? And then that's what connects that up to the aft head and the aft blades above that. So yeah, looking to the sides, either side of it, yeah, some great detail. Things like troop warning lights are there. I mean, not everything is there, right? So they've not put in every single bit of pipe work, but yeah, I mean, there's a good amount of detail. Like I say, troop warning boxes there, things like emergency exit lights. You can see the handle, which you will use to pump the hydraulics up. Next to it actually is a electric version of it called the e-pusher. You've got the maintenance panel. I know we can interact with the maintenance panel. That's on the real aircraft, that allows the flight engineer crew to monitor things like what's going on with the transmissions, hydraulics, all that kind of stuff. And then just above, so you see that kind of yellow panel there, it's where one of the synchronizing shafts actually comes down into the cabin, connects up to the aft transmission. And then moving forward, you can see all the troop seats in position. Soundproofing across the top, loads of kind of holes in the soundproofing. I mean, there are some items which are supposed to be fitted up there. So for example, the two DECUs, which are part of the fuel control systems. Yeah, I mean, soundproofing does look good. And then, yeah, just below your feet, partway along the aircraft, this is where we've got the center hatch. So for this, we've come back outside. You can see I've started the aircraft up because yeah, that's the only way I could see to deploy the center hook. I mean, you should be able to do it without any power. It's just, you know, something somebody can do by hand. But yeah, you can see the center hook underneath. It's modeled really well. We'll just kind of zoom in. You can see the panel extended behind it, and then look up into the bay itself. So the hook is basically hung underneath that yellow kind of structure there. That's referred to as the beam, because you know, you can carry an awful lot on this hook. In terms of the detail, yeah, let's have another look around. You can see the manual release handle up there. The black panel, that's basically the underside of the panel that we just saw from inside of the cabin. And then you got the various kind of, on the American versions, there's additional controls inside of there. The UK ones don't kind of have those. They just have switches for lighting. And yeah, if you pull back, you can actually kind of almost like X-ray vision look into the model, and you can see that kind of bay that it's like a void basically that the center hook sits inside of, between the so you got a panel where people walk on inside the cabin when it's all closed up, and then the panel at the bottom is there to essentially keep the weather out. And then obviously, you know, Chinook is an aircraft that can sling load 3 hooks, right? So if we just carry on looking underneath the aircraft, and yeah, we've got other antenna, anti-collision light and things like that. We have also got, and they are modeled really, really well. I mean, there's, you know, manual release cables not fitted and things like that, but you get a really good look at the hooks themselves, right? So you can see the latch at the front, where essentially the strop is kind of just pushed through that sprung-loaded latch, and then it will sit in the hook. And essentially the forward and aft hooks are identical, and they look, yeah, the model on this is really, really good for that one. And then just moving back into the cabin, again, having a look around, you've got both of the auxiliary circuit breaker panels on either side. Position is slightly different from what I'm used to, but perhaps that's where it is on the American aircraft. And then moving forwards to the front, as I said, on the right hand side, it's the forward cabin door, and then on the left hand side, it's the port escape hatch. We've got another troop warning box up there as well. And then in this, off to the left hand side at the front, that's where you tend to find a lot of the avionics equipment is actually behind this soundproofing here. And then obviously, as we know, and as you guys will probably know from just flying the aircraft, right, we've got the cockpit at the front, and you probably know all the items on the cockpit kind of really, really well. So I'm not gonna go as far as that, but overall view of the model itself, it is really, really good. We have, you know, there are systems as elements that they're slowly kind of adding to it. I mean, the last update, just like some small tweaks and things like that. I think the most significant thing recently was the update to the trim. But yeah, looking forward to what they're going to do with it in 2025. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.